morning. I'm Lisa Irving and I'm a clinical psychologist who works with firefighters, helping them with post-traumatic stress disorder. So today I wanted to just put some information out there to help any firefighters that aren't aware of what PTSD is, let you know about the treatment of choice, and talk a little bit about changing the work culture. So firstly, how does somebody know that they have post-traumatic stress disorder? Many of the clients that I see say that they thought the symptoms that they were experiencing were just part of the job. So things like having images or other sensory memories of the incident repeat to them. Things like feeling like they want to stay away from certain reminders, or some people call them triggers. Feeling a bit grouchy because they're tired, but also maybe that they're experiencing trauma-related symptoms, and perhaps avoiding people or co-workers, or not feeling like going to work. A big one with firefighters often is also the sound of the bell. That when the bell goes off, that usually gets you amped up, ready to go to a job. But lots of people say they feel that hypervigilance, and their body goes into fight and flight. So these can be some things which happen, and they might happen just for one job, or there might be multiple jobs that have accumulated over time. So we tend to use something called eye movement desensitization reprocessing to help the person reprocess that specific job. So how we do this is we use something that's called bilateral stimulation, which is often through eye movements. I always joke that I've got a magic pen. One of my clients called this my magic pen. And what that does is it helps the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere kind of like build a bit of information passing backwards and forwards, kind of like a bridge, so that the information can settle. The second thing is that we use what's called a working memory. So an example of working memory, if I hadn't practiced this, that I would say that this was working memory, but because I've practiced it, it's not. But if I do the other way, I haven't practiced it, I've got to really think about it. That's working memory. So we get you to do a number of different things at the same time as we're doing the EMDR, which lets the information pass. And there's a couple of other steps too, where we're looking at, what we call a negative cognition or a negative belief that might be associated. It's sort of like a filter for that particular job. And then we're working towards actually implementing what's called a positive belief in terms of that's our goal to get to at the end of the EMDR. So a lot of people are surprised at how effective and how well that this technique works. The World Health Organization states that it is the treatment of choice. And once you do one memory, often that the next memories or jobs flow along a little bit quicker. So I'd highly recommend it if you have any jobs that are kind of sticking in your mind in any way. And often the results are that you're feeling, calmer, you're no longer having panicky feelings or angry feelings so much, and you can do your work feeling relatively psychologically safe, because that's really the aim here, that you guys see a lot. You get exposed to a lot in your jobs, and we want the world and the workplace to feel like a safer place. So that's the treatment and the symptoms. And then often what I ask people to do is, if they feel safe enough within themselves, if they can talk to their work colleagues about PTSD and how good the EMDR is, so that they can sort of pass it on, that there is something that can be done about this. For some people, they might feel that they don't want to go back to work once they've done all that work, and that's okay too, because the workplace often looks after firefighters to either redirect into another job within the organisation, or sometimes people choose to go outside of the organisation. But either way, it's the idea of having a happier life, which is the name of my practice: Revive, Health and Happiness. And that's what EMDR can help you to do. So welcome, and I hope that you've enjoyed listening to what I have to say today. Thank you.